As we grow older, it's natural to think about where and how we'll spend our golden years. Many envision being close to their children as the ideal situation, helping raise grandkids, spending more time together, and being there for each other. It's often sold as the perfect way to remain connected. But what if I told you that this idea, as romantic as it sounds, could be a big mistake? Based on countless stories shared by individuals on various platforms and forums, I've seen a recurring theme. Living close to your children as you age often leads to unintended consequences. Here's why. Number 1. You may become a burden. One of the most frequently mentioned concerns is the fear of becoming a burden to your children. The reality is, as we age, we may need more support, and even though our kids may initially welcome the idea, over time, it can lead to unspoken resentment. I've read stories of well-meaning parents who moved closer to their kids, only to later feel like they were intruding. Think about this. Your kids are likely at the peak of their careers, managing their households, and possibly raising children of their own. Adding to their already packed schedules by being close may unintentionally pressure them into feeling like they must take care of you, even when they aren't ready for it. One woman on Reddit shared her regret, saying, "I moved closer to my daughter because I wanted to be part of her life and help with my grandchildren. But slowly, I realized I was asking for too much help myself. I became a burden to her even though she never said it. It broke my heart and now I feel stuck." It's not that your children don't love you. They do. But proximity often brings unplanned dependency, creating emotional and physical strains on the relationship. Living independently can actually help preserve the relationship. 2. Loss of independence and identity. Moving closer to your kids can sometimes unintentionally lead to a loss of your own independence. When you're physically close to family, it becomes easy to rely on them more than you should, whether it's for transportation, running errands, or simple decision-making. Take the story of a man who moved next door to his son and daughter-in-law, thinking it would be convenient. Within months, he found himself constantly asking for small favors like picking up groceries or driving him to appointments. Eventually, he stopped doing many things on his own because it was easier to ask for help. He admitted, "I feel like I've lost the confidence to do things by myself. My life has started revolving around them, and I've forgotten how to live by myself." Staying further away gives you a reason to maintain your independence. You're forced to remain active, both mentally and physically, which can add years to your life and help you hold on to your identity. 3. Strained relationships. Living too close can sometimes strain the very relationships you're trying to nurture. Just because you're family doesn't mean you'll get along all the time, especially when proximity magnifies every little issue. Many older parents report that living too close to their adult children leads to an almost parent-child dynamic again, where advice and opinions are freely given, even when they're not wanted. One mother in a forum shared, "I thought living next to my son would mean we'd have more quality time, but instead, it's like I'm always in his way, and I give my opinion too much, which he doesn't appreciate. It's driving a wedge between us." You might think you're just offering help, but your children might perceive it as meddling. When you live farther away, interactions become more intentional, and there's a healthy space for both parties to breathe and grow individually. 4. Limited social life and isolation. Paradoxically, moving close to your children can sometimes lead to increased feelings of isolation. When you rely too much on your children for companionship or social interaction, you might unintentionally neglect to build your own community of friends and peers. I came across a story on a forum about a woman who moved close to her son and assumed she would be included in family gatherings, outings, and social circles. However, she soon realized that her son's life was much busier than she expected. She said, "I had uprooted my life, left behind friends and my community, thinking I'd be part of my son's daily life, but he's so busy, and I've ended up feeling more isolated than ever." Building relationships outside of your family is crucial. When you live independently, you're more likely to seek out social activities, meet new people, and maintain a sense of purpose and engagement in the world. This adds vibrancy to your life, something you can't get if you're overly reliant on your children. 5. Guilt and obligation on both sides. Living near your children can sometimes create an atmosphere of guilt. You might feel guilty asking for help, while your children may feel guilty when they don't have time to assist or visit as much as you'd like. One woman shared a poignant story about how she constantly felt torn between her aging parents, who lived just down the street, and her own busy life. She said, "Every time I couldn't help them, I felt guilty. But I also felt resentment building up because I wanted to focus on my career and kids. It's a no-win situation." For parents, there's also the emotional strain of feeling like you're in the way. When living independently, that constant tension of obligation melts away. Visits become more cherished, and there's less pressure on both parties to meet unspoken expectations. 6. You risk missing out on new experiences. Living near your children may limit your sense of adventure and willingness to explore new environments. When you settle close to family, there's a tendency to fall into routines, assuming that being nearby provides a sense of security. However, this comfort zone may rob you of the chance to experience new places, meet diverse people, and engage in activities you've always wanted to try, but never had the opportunity. A man shared his story about moving to a different state after retiring instead of settling near his kids. He mentioned, "My daughter was disappointed, but moving to a new city has brought me so much joy. I joined local clubs, made new friends, and found a community that shares my interests. I would have never done this if I had stayed close to my kids. Now when they visit, I feel like I'm showing them my new, vibrant life, rather than just being part of theirs." Choosing a different path for your retirement, whether it's traveling, relocating to a new city, or even living in a retirement community, can provide a wealth of experiences that keep you engaged and excited about life. You get to write the next chapter of your story, one that's uniquely yours. 7. Your children may not be ready for the responsibility. Most adult children aren't emotionally or practically prepared to take on the responsibility of an aging parent nearby. Hence, this can put an enormous amount of pressure on them, even when they try to handle it gracefully. One woman on a forum shared how her mother moved close by after her father passed. "It seemed like a good idea at first, but then I realized I wasn't ready for this kind of responsibility. I'm trying to balance work, raising my own kids, and now I'm also helping my mom more than I ever thought I would. It's caused stress in my marriage, and sometimes I just feel overwhelmed." Many adult children may still be navigating their own lives and aren't prepared to become caregivers in any capacity. When you live at a distance, they have the emotional space to prepare for this eventuality on their own terms. While they'll undoubtedly be there for you when you need them, it's better to allow them to come to that role naturally instead of feeling obligated prematurely. 8. You deserve to focus on yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that being near your children is the best way to find meaning in your later years. But what about you? What do you want? After spending decades working, raising your family, and making sacrifices for others, it's finally time to focus on your own needs, passions, and desires. This is your time. A heartwarming story I came across was from a woman who moved to a beach town by herself after retiring. I spent my whole life taking care of everyone, my kids, my husband, even my aging parents. I thought my next step would be to move closer to my kids, but I realized I had spent enough of my life being what other people needed. I found a place by the ocean, and for the first time in decades, I'm doing things for me. My kids come to visit, but they're seeing a mom who's happy and fulfilled. It's a gift I never expected to give them. Your retirement years should be about rediscovering yourself, reigniting your passions, and enjoying the freedom that comes with this stage of life. Whether it's traveling, taking up new hobbies, or simply enjoying quiet time on your own, focusing on your personal growth and happiness benefits both you and your relationship with your children. 9. Your children's parenting choices may frustrate you. Living close to your children often means seeing more of their parenting styles up close, and while that sounds like a great way to bond, it can lead to frustration if you don't agree with their choices. Whether it's discipline, education, or even what they feed their kids, you might find yourself in a situation where you're silently, or not so silently, disagreeing with how they're raising your grandchildren. A grandmother shared her experience on an online forum. I never realized how much I'd struggle with my daughter's way of parenting until I lived nearby. I want to help, but we're constantly butting heads over small things like how much TV they let the kids watch or how they handle tantrums. It's exhausting, and I sometimes regret moving so close. Another woman shared, I moved closer to my daughter thinking we'd spend more time together, but we ended up clashing over how she raises her kids. I grew up in a different time, and it's hard not to give advice even when it's not wanted. We've had arguments over things like screen time and discipline, and now I feel like I'm tiptoeing around her. When you live at a distance, those lifestyle differences are less in your face. You don't see the day-to-day decisions your kids are making, and it allows for more acceptance and less friction. This space can also help maintain the respect necessary for a positive relationship, ensuring your role as a parent doesn't shift into one of constant critique or unsolicited advice. This also allows your children to make their own choices without feeling judged. 10. Proximity can lead to overstepping boundaries. Even with the best intentions, living too close to your children can make it difficult to maintain healthy boundaries. It's easy to start popping over unannounced, expecting frequent visits, or becoming overly involved in their daily lives. This can unintentionally put pressure on your kids to respond to your needs at all times, leading to emotional exhaustion on both sides. One woman shared, I love my mom, but after she moved nearby, I started to feel like I was constantly on call. She'd drop by unexpectedly, and while she just wanted to chat, I felt like I had no privacy or space. I started to resent her, and I know she felt hurt by my pulling away. Maintaining boundaries is essential for both parties to keep a sense of autonomy and mutual respect. Living further apart helps enforce those natural boundaries more easily, allowing your kids to maintain their family life while giving you the space to enjoy yours. Regular planned visits become special and appreciated, rather than an expectation that can lead to tension. 11. The grandparent role can be overwhelming. Being close to your grandchildren can be a wonderful experience, but for many, it can also become overwhelming. If you live nearby, there's often an unspoken expectation that you'll be heavily involved in babysitting, school pickups, or simply spending large amounts of time with your grandkids. While this might be fulfilling for a while, it can start to wear you down, especially if you feel obligated to help out, even when you'd rather focus on your own needs. One grandfather shared, I moved closer to my daughter thinking I'd enjoy more time with my grandkids. I love them dearly, but now I find myself watching them almost every day and it's exhausting. I'm retired, but I feel like I've taken on a new job. I don't know how to say no without causing tension, but I miss my free time. Living at a distance allows you to set boundaries more easily. You can still be an involved grandparent, but on your own terms and without feeling like you're stepping into a full-time caregiving role. This ensures that your relationship with your grandchildren remains joyful rather than a source of stress or obligation. It's not easy to admit, but living too close to your children in old age may not be the dream scenario you envision. It can lead to feelings of being a burden, a loss of independence, strained relationships, and even isolation. Your best life may actually be one where you maintain distance, both physically and emotionally, while still nurturing those connections. And it's not about abandoning your family or distancing yourself emotionally. It's about giving yourself the freedom to live your best life, while allowing your children to do the same. It's about balance. Stay close in spirit, but give yourself and your children the space to live your lives fully and independently. Your golden years should be about self-fulfillment, maintaining your identity, and thriving in ways that go beyond the proximity of family. Trust me when I say that your family will appreciate you more when they see you thriving and living a life full of purpose. You'll find that the space, both physical and emotional, creates stronger bonds, healthier relationships, and a happier life for everyone involved.